Hey, welcome to another edition of the House of B podcast. Today we're going to talk about the new movie from Steven Spielberg called Ready Player One. It was based on a novel from 2011 by Ernest Cline. And we're going to give you a little bit of a spoiler-free review, and then we're going to dive in and give you some spoiler-filled some review as well. But we'll be right back with Ready Player One. And we're back. So this past week, we went on a double date with our wives and went and saw Ready Player One, new Spielberg movie. Based, as I mentioned, based on a novel of the same title by Ernest Cline. I had read the book going in.
I had not read the book going in.
But overall, I thought it was a very well done movie. It wasn't a strict adaptation to the book. We'll get into that a little bit when we get into the spoiler filled thing. But overall, for a sci-fi CGI heavy movie, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Lots of nostalgia to my favorite time, and we both grew up in the 80s.
Oh.
Lots of 80s callbacks, lots of pop culture, video game, that type of stuff from the 80s, which definitely hit the feels for me, being able to pick up some things. But overall, I really enjoyed it, just as a movie itself and as an adaptation of a book I really enjoyed.
I will say, again, going into this without having read the book, that I'm just taking it from, I've seen a couple of trailers for the movie and know nothing else about what the story should have been or could have been based on the book. I didn't even know there was a book for it until a little bit leading up into the movie, and so I was like, oh, okay, well, that's good. I might want to check out the book after seeing the movie. So for me, thoroughly enjoyed it. Knew I was going to be in for a wild ride just from seeing the trailers and various aspects, throwbacks to the 80s, like you were saying, 80s and 90s and even more, that there was going to be a nostalgic factor to this. And there's a bit of this nostalgic factor going on in Hollywood in general when you have like the success with Stranger Things, seasons 1 and 2 now, and like it being like a top hit horror, a rated R horror movie, and breaking box office numbers there, and people are really eating this stuff up. And then here comes Ready Player One, and although initial reports are that it's not going to do as well at the box office, it really should. It is such an enjoyable movie. This is not necessarily going to be the best storyline or plot line ever, but it's going to be very, very enjoyable. When we get into some of the details in the spoiler area, you'll hear more about that.
Yeah, I mean, visually it was appealing. I enjoyed the story, and there are some subtle differences and not so subtle differences from the book, but the essence of the story from the book is there.
Yeah.
It even plays on some of the themes a little bit differently, but it works. But overall, it was a great movie, and this will be your final warning. I think we're going to dive into.
What about just giving people a ranking, maybe?
Okay.
Like out of 5. Is it 3 or 4.5? Where does that rank in? Just to give people who are going to before they cut out because they don't want any spoilers, to get a sense of from the perspective of somebody who's read the book. And recommendation is to see the movie, and how would you rank that out of 5?
I'd give it a solid 4 out of 5.
Okay. For me, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. There was a few things acting-wise that I felt could have been better. There's a few things story-wise that I thought could have been better, but it was a thoroughly enjoyable show. Now, I generally don't go to the movie theaters that much, maybe 3 to 5 times a year. And generally speaking, I only see a movie once at the movie theater and then wait for it to come out. This is one I think I will go back to the theater and see again.
I agree with that.
That says a lot for it, for me. So I do recommend the theater experience going to see that. We saw it in 2D, we didn't watch it in 3D. I'm not into 3D, so I can't really recommend if that would be good for that or not. And having not seen it in that, I can just say that we went to Movie Tavern. We like the recliner seats. We like reserved seating. We like that experience. And plus, they sell a rum there. So there's that. I think I've mentioned rum before. But, okay, so that being said.
Spoilers. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. We're just going to kind of give you a minute if you don't want to be spoiled or if you haven't seen the movie, this is your last chance to cut out.
Right here, it says spoiler alert. Right
4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so if you're still with us, we're assuming you've seen the movie or you don't care that you're spoiled.
True. You might as well jump right into it with the music. See what I did there? Because the song Jump, which that's not even a spoiler because that was in the trailers, although there is a song in the trailers that we didn't hear in the movie.
So I was a little upset that in the trailer that was Rush's Tom Sawyer that didn't make it into the movie.
Which, I mean, I would have loved to have heard that too, but it didn't ruin the movie for me. I wasn't waiting for it and watching for it. If it had come on, I'd be like, great.
No,
but I didn't notice that it wasn't there until
at the end, I was. It's not that I was waiting for it, but I noticed that it hadn't been part of it. But yeah, the music, lots of callbacks. Off the top of my head, I know you've.
I only have 2 things on here because there's only 2 things I could verify for sure, which they did "Staying Alive" by the Bee Gees in this dance sequence.
Yep.
And that was another thing is that the music fit for what was happening in the movie.
Yes.
They were dancing, and so "Staying Alive" was on. And they had the light up board, the different squares lighting up and stuff, just like in Saturday Night Fever. So I just so much liked how they tied things in. It wasn't just, hey, let's just throw this in there because it was in the 80s.
Right.
There's some of that too,
I will
say, but there's a lot of things that had a purpose.
I will say I did read an article in Entertainment Weekly that with Spielberg directing, now having read the book, in the book there's a ton of Spielberg movies that he produced or directed, a ton of references to those. And I had read something leading up to it once I found out that he was going to be directing it, that he was going out of his way to not do any of his own movie references because he didn't want people to think it was all an ego trip for him to do this nostalgic movie about all his movies.
Which is really too bad because
right.
There's so much there.
But I was reading that the visual artists that are doing the CGI were constantly trying to sneak stuff in, and he caught all but one of them, from what I understand. There is in the end scene with the big battle scene, I believe there is a gremlin.
Oh, really?
Somewhere, I didn't catch it either, but that is the only one that he wasn't able to catch. There's a scene when
there is the T-Rex, which you could say is from Jurassic Park.
Correct.
That's part of the story, though. So you got these 3 challenges that they need to complete to get the key, and then they have rankings and the leaderboards and whatnot, and then try to get to the Easter egg at the end.
Although
one of the challenges was that car race,
but that's not a challenge in the book.
Which we're talking about the movie.
Right.
So in the movie, one of the challenges is that car race, and the T-Rex was there, and there was a number of things to try to prevent people from making it to the finish line, and of course not of course, but King Kong is in that as well, and that's like the ultimate challenge is to try to get past him at the very end, which people just were not able to do until Ty Sheridan's character was able to figure out. That was another aspect to this movie too, which is like the Hall of Memories for the creator of the Oasis, and you're able to go in and actually almost like watching movies. Be able to look through and see, I want to see this memory and I want to see it play out and change angles and stuff like that. And so he looked for clues there. What were those people referred to as? That they were
Gunters, which is short for egg hunters.
Egg hunters.
The ultimate goal was to find the 3 keys to find the ultimate Easter egg, which would allow you to, in a Willy Wonka fashion, own the Oasis and all of Halliday's millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, and so it was really kind of an interesting concept. This dystopian future of 2045 in Columbus, was it? Columbus, Ohio, where the real world itself, you've got all these, people just living in stacked mobile homes and stuff, and they escape in this virtual reality world that everybody gets into and does. It's the place to go. And it seems like, from what I gathered, because I'm not reading a book and it doesn't specify that, and they don't really say it, but it seems like that the currency that you earn in the game world works for you in the real world as well.
So yeah, you can
kind of go back and forth.
Buy upgrades to be able to enhance your enjoyability of the Oasis. And it can, it gets dropped to you in the real world using your virtual currency.
It's kind of like Bitcoin.
Correct. It's no different than the cryptocurrency that we have today.
Yeah. So there's, but there, it seems like it's just one currency now. So there's no more in this dystopian world. There's no more paper currency per se. Maybe
we don't know. It
doesn't really get into it. It just seems like everything dealt with for buying or selling inside the game or outside the game in the real world is done with that currency. You can earn coins when you're playing the game and stuff, and then you're able to use that to actually buy something in the physical real world, and you can take out loans and stuff and whatnot that you're going to be using for stuff that you're going to be doing in the game. Right. So it just seems so interchangeable, and it's like there's a lot of things about it that it's like I could really see this kind of future. This, maybe not stacked mobile homes, in high-rise structures of mobile homes.
But the point of that is, it's 30 years in the future, and population, as we're seeing now, is just exponentially expanding. That you're running out of space, so the only way to go is up.
Yeah. No, true that, and true dat. I just said that. Losing my mind. Let's talk about maybe just some of those little hidden gems that we saw in the movie that you look at and you're like, oh, wow, that was cool. I didn't see that in the trailer. Because there was a lot in the trailer. They gave away a lot in the trailer, I thought. Because when I went back and watched the trailer again afterwards, it's like, that's at the very end of the movie. That's,
right.
You don't really necessarily know that as you're watching the trailer, but, if you remember certain scenes from the trailer, you're waiting for it to happen, and you're like, this hasn't happened yet. So to me, that was a little spoilery, but not too much.
Yeah, I didn't have that going in because I knew the
already
basic
had
story.
It spoiled by the book. That's a good lesson for you kids. Don't read.
No, always read.
Don't read.
The book is always better.
So wait till you see the movie.
Not always, but it is.
Wait till you see the movie, then go back and read the book. That's what I'm saying.
No.
So what were some of the other highlights or moments for you in there? There's a huge moment for me.
One of my favorite ones is in the big battle scene at the end, and one of the characters tosses Parzival, the main character, a weapon, and he tosses it to him, and it's Chucky.
It's Chucky, and
from the Chucky movies,
almost like using it like a grenade.
Right.
You throw Chucky at your enemy,
and then they show the Sixers, which are the IOI, the evil corporation that's trying to win the prize so that they can own the Oasis and monetize it to everyone's detriment. And the one guy gets killed, and he's like, "Effing Chucky!" And it's just a great moment.
It is hilarious, that moment. There were a lot of whether it was an actual character that I saw, or it was maybe just a reference. There's so many of them, and I know I didn't catch all of them.
And I think I know what your favorite one is.
Well, it's not my favorite, but one of them that stood out to me that I was like, I can't believe that Spawn was in there.
Not the one I was
there was a short glimpse of Spawn, but probably one of my favorites. Well, there was Goro, and it wasn't really Goro. It was somebody who had their avatar, who was wearing almost like an avatar over their avatar, which was Goro. And then you had the chest burster from Alien, and I was dying at that moment.
And it was Artemis, which is one of the other main characters, and then she's got the chest burster, and she's using it like
puppet. That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was a good moment. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much to
Mechagodzilla.
Yep,
The bad guy
Mechagodzilla.
at the end. That was one of his. Even though he from what I heard, because I didn't read the book, but I actually gone on and watched some reviews about it as well, just to get some other perspectives, especially from people who have read the book. So I knew what ammunition to have against what Corey was going to come at with me with. Maybe I don't know, but yeah, they were saying that who was the baddie in it, the corporate overlord. Well, anyways,
Ben Mendelsohn played the character.
Ben Mendelsohn.
Sorensen, I want to say his name is, I can't.
He was
I'm
a lot
blanking
more
on it.
tamed
Yes.
down than from the book. He
Yes.
was a lot darker and a lot more of evil character
Yes.
in the book, from what I understood.
Yes.
And they kind of dumbed him down a little bit, almost in a Goonies-like fashion, where the baddie is bad, but somewhat of an inept character.
And I think that was all Spielberg.
That's a Spielberg thing,
because
too.
Spielberg does that consistently.
Yeah.
Whenever he does a movie that involves kids, he always sets the kids up to be smarter than the adults.
And yeah,
Goonies. He was the producer of E.T. It's always that the kids are always going to be able to outsmart the adults, and the adults are just there for, kind of a slapstick shell of what you would think that they would be. And so I think he had a lot to do with that.
Now there was other small things in there briefly, where you may saw somebody that's not a main character, but you saw like Freddy Krueger.
Yep.
So when you first met, is it D? Or no? What's the one character who had the shop and was his best friend? H. I had the letter wrong. It was A, B, C, D. I would have gotten there eventually, but just kept going through the letters of the alphabet. So H. What was it? Now I lost my train of thought of what I was going to say about.
You're talking about Freddy Krueger.
Oh, so they show H just playing in the game world and just talking, with Ty Sheridan's character. Parzival. Talking with Parzival. I say I don't know this world well enough, and I don't have it memorized yet. And so H is shooting at different characters in the game, and up pops Freddy Krueger. And I didn't see it, but I heard there was another, like maybe Mike Myers or Jason. One of the two.
Jason was in there later.
Jason was?
Later, I believe, in the end battle.
I don't remember seeing Jason,
I remember.
but I remember seeing towards the beginning of the movie Freddy Krueger, and it's like, I hope they still have like a lot of these little things in there, and they did.
And they did, yeah. I mean, in the race scene,
Batman was in there.
In the race, you could climb Mount Everest with Batman. In the race scene, there was the Adam West Batmobile.
Yes, I have that on here.
Parzival was driving the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Awesome. Bigfoot monster.
Artemis was riding the motorcycle from Akira, which is a very popular anime.
I wasn't familiar with it.
I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it, but I recognize the bike just from working in a video store.
I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, is this the Tron light cycle? It doesn't look quite like it. And then I heard about that, and I was like, oh, okay, well, kudos for you for taking that from Tron. Is what I thought. But also, you could see the Mach 5 from Speed Racer in the lineup as well. That was another one of the vehicles, and I kept looking for, and to see if I could see more, and then there was a lot of the Sixers. They just had a standard.
Yeah, and that's the idea, is that you sign up to be a Sixer, and basically when you go to work for IOI, you get an employee number, and they all start with 6. So that's where the term Sixer comes from. And they're just people that have basically sold their soul and for a contract to basically hunt for the Easter egg to turn it over to IOI to be able
big bad company
to monetize the Oasis.
There was Star Trek references. The creator, they were showing his room, and there was just the various emblems of Star Trek up on the wall. Stuff from Battlestar Galactica. There was a Goonies poster, Rush poster. Those were just all their small things. And I could swear I saw Serenity in there, from the Firefly.
I don't recall
from Serenity.
seeing that.
I don't know for sure. I was reaching for my remote to back up, and I was like, no, I'm in the theater. I can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite sequences is the second challenge. They go into the movie The Shining, and
that was so awesome.
They recreated the hotel like spot on. And honestly, I need to see it again, because I couldn't tell if they actually recreated it or if they just took film from the original and spliced them in.
It could have been a little of both too.
Right.
And I kept wondering.
But there were spots where it seemed like it, just the quality of it. It almost seemed like it was in the classic film, which I think they were going for. So I don't know if they recreated the set and they digitally made it look like you were in the 70s film, or if they actually took the real film and spliced them in.
It was one of those things, and again, that wasn't something that was in the book, from what I understand,
Correct.
what I'd heard about, but it was a challenge. So it wasn't just, hey, you're going to watch a movie. You're going to be a part of that movie. You're going to experience it. And it's part of the challenge. And then they took it into another direction with it, where it became a game that you had to to complete, win the challenge.
The scene,
I thought that was brilliant.
The scene with H and the lady in the bathtub was just awesome.
That was amazing.
I mean, that's a classic scene from that movie. And just the twist that they put on that was just awesome.
Oh, I thought, okay, well, I'll go with that.
And that's another, spoiler alert. At that point, and even, in the book, up until a certain point, you don't realize that H is actually a girl.
Yeah.
And, at that point, you're thinking that H is this big, brawny dude.
Yeah.
But there were...
the Avatar is.
Right, but there were subtle hints. And in the book as well about, you never know, when he's warning Parzival about Artemis, you never know. It could be some 30-year-old guy in his mom's basement.
Yeah. So,
and that's a subtle hint, foreshadowing that H is really not a big burly dude.
Yeah, there were moments. Boy, I could probably talk about 2 hours about that Shining scene alone, because I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe they're doing this. This is so cool.
Awesome.
And them experiencing it felt like I was experiencing it, and I just absolutely loved it. And then when you had the woman and she had the knife, and then you had Torrance with the axe, it just felt like a video game at that point. It felt like that they were in the challenge and trying to.
And I love that the timer was
blood coming out of the elevator.
The timer was the pages in the typewriter.
Yes.
And now the keys were showing. It was typing up and it was images of keys. But if you looked at the text, was still all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy from the original movie.
Yeah.
When he's in the trance, just typing
I
away.
couldn't see it well enough.
No, that's what I mean. It was the classic, Jack, when Jack's just typing and he's in the trance where he's all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
My goodness, if you go and see just that scene, well, you probably have already seen it now because this is the spoiler section, but if you hadn't, that's worth it alone. I'd go back and pay full price just for that 15-minute segment or however long it is.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a movie that I'm going to play a lot once it comes out on Blu-ray.
I can't wait for the sequel, Ready Player 2.
That's sad.
I made that up.
No, I don't know if that's going to be probably not going to be the title, but I did hear talk that Ernest Cline is working on a sequel.
Breaking news! You just heard that here first.
It's not breaking news.
Oh well. It's breaking for me.
I mean, the book's 7-8 years old, so
78 years old. That's a long
7 or 8. 2011, so 7 years old. 2011 it came out.
I can't do the math. Let me bring up my spreadsheet.
But getting back to the differences from the book, obviously there's some differences with the challenges, and I'm not gonna do that because I want you to read. I'm not gonna go into details on the actual challenges from the book because I want you to read.
And I won't go into it either
because I want you to.
I haven't read it.
No, listen to the audio. The audio book is read by Will Wheaton. Very enjoyable.
I heard he was in the movie as well.
I did not catch him in the movie.
I heard that on another review somewhere that his voice is in the movie somewhere.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember where they said, but that was
I'll have to
an Easter egg.
I'll have to look for that.
Will Wheaton.
But the one thing, the biggest differences from the book for me is that how quickly we get into the challenges, which in the movie I think you needed to, because the book has a lot of setup that gets sped through and glossed over. But I think you needed to. Where in the book you have the time and you need to do that world building. Where in the movies you can do that visually and you don't need to spend the first half hour, 45 minutes of the movie doing that setup because you can get into the story quicker.
Well, when you're dealing with just a book versus a movie, just in general, a lot of books of course, they vary in size, but the content you have in a book might equate to like 20 hours or 30 hours worth of film time.
Yeah.
And so you're having to condense that down to a maybe 2.5 hour movie. So yeah, there's going to be gaps. There's going to be things missing, and for purposes too of adaptation, some things don't translate well to a screen. So you're always gonna have that.
Then the other thing that the fact that they meet each other physically happened a lot sooner in the movie than it did in the book. It wasn't right up until the end.
Yeah.
Towards the end where they all physically meet. The one thing I think I mentioned to you that I didn't like is that in the book they actually go and they leave Columbus and they go to Ogden Oggs, played by Simon Pegg, his actual house, and meet up with him, and that's where they connect in to do the final, set up the final battle and be able to kind of skirt around the system.
Yeah.
So I was I was a little sad that he didn't have a bigger part in the movie, because he has a bigger part in the book. But as far as the challenges, I really loved the race. I thought that was a nice challenge. I really loved the shining scene.
Oh yeah.
That was good. But all that said, the essence of what the story was trying to portray and what the story is the same from the book to the movie.
Okay.
And one thing I think helped is that Ernest Cline, the author of the book, co-wrote the screenplay. So he, and from what I understand, he worked with the co-screenwriter, I don't know the name off the top of hand, as well as Spielberg, to work to craft it.
It was Henry Fisher. I just made up that name, so don't quote me on that.
Is that Carrie's younger brother?
Could be.
Okay. But I think the fact that you had Spielberg, who's a genius, and the writer of the book working together with another writer to, kind of whittle it down and keep that. You still have the quarter that allows him to have the extra life.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool. I like that touch.
And
because I was like, how's he getting out of this?
It was interesting. It was interesting to see the reaction of people in the theater knowing that moment was coming. So I thought that was kind of a nice moment.
Yeah.
That everyone got kicked out, but Wade got to stay.
I kind of thought there might have been something to that. To me, that was telegraphed a little bit. Where the curator, tossed him the coin, he won the bet, and he tosses it back, and he goes, no, and tosses it back to him. I go, there's something important about that. So it was telegraphed a little bit, but I still didn't see it coming when it was finally revealed that coin was an extra life, and I was like, that is cool. Yeah. I like that. So many tie-ins too. Now I want to say though that the relationship between the two main characters, I forget the characters' names, the girl and the guy.
Parzival and Artemis.
Those two. It felt a little rushed to me when they met up in the real world. And again, it's because they don't have time to really stretch this out. And it's like, are they really going to kiss? And then it didn't happen because it got interrupted, and I was glad. I was like, that's just way too fast.
Right, and that's the nice thing with the book, is that because they don't meet in the real world too much later, they've had that time to develop the relationship within the Oasis.
Yeah, I like the reveals, though, of the real world people, versus their avatars. When they finally were all coming together and meeting up, especially H, of course. I was like, that was cool. But I'll say one of the things that was maybe a downside to this for me, because I mentioned it before, that there was certain acting, certain things. The female character, the bad female character,
I didn't like her.
I didn't either. She was just too much.
It didn't resonate with me. I didn't connect with her. One I did, and I was hoping that we get to see his off-screen one, was T.J. Miller, played the guy with the chrome skull see-through body.
Well, you know something, he loved his portrayal in that, and the fact that they didn't show him in the real world, I think lends something to that, because everybody that was of importance as a character you got to see, and you never got to meet him in the real world.
Right.
And there's something about that too that just that I liked. I appreciated it. That you don't. We're not going to show. Here's what they look like.
But
here's what they
But
look
as
like.
far as a voice performance, I mean, you knew it was T.J. Miller. You recognized the voice. He had the same wittiness that he has as his character, like in Deadpool.
I know,
and,
but not over the top either.
Correct.
It was perfect for the character.
But he's
you picture what this guy is looking like in his basement.
I'm picturing the one South Park episode where the guy's sitting there and he can't move. It's like in Wall-E where they're all on the ship and they can't move because they're just blobs at this point, and he's just sitting there. He's that quintessential guy
casting his spell, and he's doing
30-year-old guy living in his mother's basement. All he does is play video games.
Seriously,
yeah.
He takes it so seriously, and it was. It was.
You know what would have been a nice touch there though, is if they had pulled an Ash, and the first time he tried to say it, he couldn't pronounce it.
Oh yeah,
that would have been a nice little.
That would have been fun.
Nice little throwback.
But I think they were going for this is
Correct.
the super geek. He's gonna know it. He's not gonna mess it up. He's not gonna mess that up.
But yeah,
Klaatu, Nuava, necktie.
Anywho, but yeah, I mean, going back, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I know you gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm gonna be able to watch over and over again. And like you said, I think I might go back and see it in the theater again before it leaves. See if I can pick up some more of
look
Easter
at it
eggs that I missed.
Look at it with fresh eyes, and maybe even just for trying to pick out those things. So
one thing that we did stick around till after the credits, and I was disappointed that this movie, that the whole thing is about Easter eggs. The plot of the story is trying to find the biggest Easter egg there is. That there was no post-credit scene.
No mid-credit scene, no post-credit scene.
It would have been nice just to have something thrown in there, just as a
anything.
But that's my only knock on the film itself.
All right, so we're going along with this. So maybe any closing thoughts for the kids, and then wrap this up.
Read the book. In all seriousness, if you don't like reading, get an Audible account. I mean, I have an hour commute, so I listen to books on my commute. It takes me, most of the books are 10 to 15 hours, so it takes me a couple weeks to get through a book on my commute. But growing up, I used to love to read, and I stopped just because I didn't have time, and I used my commute as my time, and I actually even find myself, when I'm really into a book, that whenever I get a chance, I'll turn it on and listen to it. But this is one of the first books that I listened to when I got the Audible account, because it was, when I had signed up for it, it was being praised, and a lot of people on Audible were recommending it.
And that was 78 years ago.
And it was 78 years ago, yes. But no, it was 3-4 years ago, and it was before I even knew that Spielberg had optioned it and was doing a movie. It wasn't until after I'd finished the book that I realized that Spielberg was making the movie, and I was excited. But in all seriousness, read the book, or listen to the book. I think you'll enjoy it. And sometimes the movie's better than the book, but 9 times out of 10 the book is always better.
So yeah, and my recommendation to you would be to read that book after watching the movie. So that doesn't, you're not going to be upset about, it wasn't like the book. And it's like, of course they never are, because otherwise it'd be a 30-hour movie. So there you go. But thank you everybody for watching. Not sure what our next topic is going to be, but if you'd like to find out more, you can always stay in touch by subscribing down below. And feel free to join in the comments when you've seen the movie and what your thoughts were. What did you rate it as? What were some of your favorite moments?
Did we get something wrong?
Did we get something wrong?
I'm just going off memory. I didn't take any notes.
I know I didn't get anything wrong.
Right.
Except for Henry Fisher.
Left.
But apart from that.
Anyways.
If I did, go ahead and comment down below. Join the conversation. And let us know if there's anything you'd like to hear us talk about in the future for an upcoming show. Apart from that, my name is Tommy.
I'm Corey. We'll see you next time.